What problems are you dealing with in your life right now?
Do you feel like giving up? Times are hard and you're not strong. Well, I know the answer for you, and it will lead to real truth. Don't look back to yesterday.
Now there are answers.
Tomorrow's on the
Welcome to
way.
Live Prayer.
It's waiting there for you.
And welcome to Live Prayer. I am Bill Keller. Good to be with you on this Tuesday evening. Prayer was a great day for you. Good to be back with you. As I promised last night, we've got another info-packed program tonight. Information all Christians need to know and understand so we can serve our Lord the best we can. Amen. If you're new to the program, you're watching Live Prayer. We come to you live and in living color every Monday through Friday, 11 to midnight Eastern Daylight Time. Wherever you may be across this great land of ours, sea to shining sea, border to what was a border for at least a little while. Thank you for tuning in tonight. And for our friends in other far-off great lands, I want to welcome you as well. Once again, I'm Bill Keller, founder, liveprayer.com. We're the world's largest interactive Christian website, reach a little over 2.5 million folks each and every day via the internet. Please check us out online. Web address on your screen, liveprayer.com, liveprayer.com. Don't be surprised when you get there and there's nothing to buy, got nothing to sell you. There's no advertising, just 22 years of great ministry content available to you for free to be a blessing to you in your walk with the Lord. Matter of fact, we're just a few days from August, our anniversary month. Looking forward to that. We'll talk about that more as we get into the month of August. Again, good to be back with you. Well, let me officially declare that today the United States is a true banana republic, a true third world nation. Never thought I would ever say those words, but after the show trial that you saw, many of you saw begin today in the House, we are officially a banana republic. We're going to get into that tonight, of course, along with so many other issues. But first, let's take a minute, say a word of prayer because we've got a lot to get to. Father, thank you for bringing us all back together again tonight. We never want to take even 1 hour with you for granted. And we're grateful that we have the ability to join together, one heart, one mind, to hear the things we need to hear tonight, understand the things we need to understand. I'm thankful for my friends who are part of this program tonight, either live or on demand. And I ask that you meet the needs of them and their families, whatever those challenges they may be facing tonight. Thank you again for this wonderful day that you've gifted to us, the blessings we've enjoyed. And now, Lord, use this hour for your glory. Let Jesus be glorified in this coming 60 minutes. And we ask and pray in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. Real quick little house cleaning here. Again, I'm just talking about this because a lot of this is new. People don't know. We are always live Monday through Friday, 11 to midnight on liveprayer.com on our website under the media link, Live Prayer Church or Live Prayer Media. There's a media link that says Live Prayer TV, right? That's where you can always find this program. All right. Now, we also simulcast the live feed. Many of you might be watching on our Live Prayer Facebook page, others on our Live Prayer Twitter page, still others on our Live Prayer TV YouTube channel. Some of you are watching on our Live Prayer Church Roku channel. Some of you are even watching on our latest live platform, which is Rumble. Now, we're live on our website, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Rumble. We're live everywhere. On all of those places, you can also find our previous programs for on-demand viewing. In other words, you watch at your convenience. If you missed last night's program, please take the hour to watch and hear that program. Put it on the background while you're doing something, but listen to the information. Tons. Same thing with tonight. Now, just for a quick update, we are also not live, but on demand, available on demand on Live Prayer Gab, Live Prayer Parlor, Live Prayer Cloud Hub, Live Prayer TPN, the Patriots Network, and Live Prayer Getter. Okay, so we're not live on those 5 platforms, but the program is available about 5 minutes after we're done each night on those platforms. All right? So wherever you may be planting on social media these days, we're pretty much everywhere, at least for right now. We'll see how long a couple of these platforms hang in there, but so far so good. All right, let's get to business, because we've got a lot to talk about tonight. I've still got a bunch from last night I need to get cleaned up, actually. So let's kind of start there. Saturday night, some of you may have seen it. President Trump was in Phoenix, Arizona. It was a Turning Point USA event about the voter integrity. President Trump spoke for about 2 hours. It was he was in one of those good moods where he just went on and on and on. Here's the reason I'm bringing it up, okay? Because, God hasn't made every one of us an Einstein, but God did give every one of us something called common sense, okay? And if you remember, right after the election of 2020, many nights in a row, as we were discussing what was going on, I kept reminding you, numbers tell a story. Numbers tell a story. It's like these CSI shows where they've got experts in blood splatter, right? You've got these forensic experts with hair and fiber. Got the DNA now. So a lot of times it's those little forensic clues that, break a case wide open because they tell a story. Well, numbers tell a story as well. Friday night, about a good 24 hours before the event in Phoenix, you already had over 1,000 people lined up in the streets. 24 hours in advance. Well over 1,000. And as the day went on, that line grew and grew. I mean, it was literally blocks and blocks. I mean, it's a sea of humanity. Now, this venue only held about, I think, 4,000 people. I mean, they filled it up immediately to the point the fire marshal had to shut the doors. They could have put another 20,000 in easily. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because Joe Biden, during the election, couldn't fill up 8 circles. But more recently, last week, he had this big CNN town hall. They were at a Catholic college outside of Cincinnati in a little auditorium, held about 1,200 people, and at best they had 500 there. And I'm sure those are all donors and Democratic activists anyway. I mean, the place was 2/3 to 3/4 empty. The President of the United States. Now, the other interesting thing was, when Joe Biden came to Cincinnati, his motorcade wasn't met by streets full of Biden supporters showing their love for the president like they do for President Trump wherever he goes. No. The only people on the streets were Trump supporters protesting Biden's appearance in their area. Okay? It means something. It means something. Now, let me share with you real quickly some numbers. And I think these, again, numbers tell a story. Listen to these numbers, okay? This is the 2020 election, right? Going back for 8 years to the 2012 election, that was when Obama ran for his second term, okay? Barack Obama got 69 million votes. He won 18 out of 19 bellwether counties in the country over Mitt Romney. He won a total of 873 counties. He won Ohio, Florida, Iowa. No person running for president in the history of this country has ever lost the election if you went on Ohio, Florida, and Iowa. And on top of that, they gained seats in the House. Okay? Now, let's go to Trump, 2020. He got 75 million votes, or so they say. Personally, I believe it's more, but we'll just use our numbers for now, because their numbers tell the story anyway. 75 million. Now, he got 62 million in 2016, so he upped his vote count by 13 million votes. He, too, won 18 out of 19 of the bellwether counties in the country. He won 2,497 counties. He won Ohio. He won Florida. He won Iowa. Never in the history of this country has a person running for president won Ohio, won Florida, won Iowa, and lost the election. And of course, they gained about 12, 13 House seats. Okay, gained seats. Now let's go to Joe Biden. We're expected to believe that he got 81 million votes. That would be 12 million votes more than the popular. Well, say what you want about Barack Obama. He was popular with a certain swath of the country, and he never had trouble putting a crowd together. Never. But Joe Biden, we're expected to believe, who never even really ran a campaign. He was in his basement the whole time. They'd roll him out for 5-minute speeches on a teleprompter he couldn't read in front of 8 circles, which usually weren't even all full. But we're still expected to believe he got 81 million votes. He won 1 out of 19 of the bellwether counties. 1. He won 477 counties. Now again, Trump 22,497, Biden 477. Of course, Trump, as we mentioned, won Ohio, Florida, Iowa. Biden lost, of course, Ohio, Florida, and Iowa. And as we just mentioned, Trump picked up about 15 seats in the House, which means Biden lost 15 seats. Okay. I give you these numbers because, once again, we're supposed to believe that this man, who can't even really put a sentence together anymore, literally, got 81 million votes. I mean, it's insane. As long as we're on the Bidens, let's talk about the fact that this family is a national security nightmare. This hard drive of Hunter's, I know the media doesn't want to talk about it. Big tech is trying all they can to censor it. But due to Freedom of Information Act, a few investigative journalistic operations got hold of the Secret Service records in regards to their security for Hunter Biden. Number one, in the time Joe Biden was a vice president, Hunter Biden took 72 foreign trips. 72! I know businessmen with business all over the world that didn't take 72 foreign trips in 4 years. Okay? Here's the interesting thing. He took 3 trips to China. All 3 trips, he told his Secret Service detail not to come along. Not to come along. While Joe Biden was a senator and then vice president, the Biden family, and it wasn't just Hunter's, his brother and sister, have been corrupt to the core, raking in millions worldwide. And there is no doubt that Joe Biden is owned by the communist Chinese government. Because don't forget, when you go to these foreign countries like China, Russia, probably any of them, to be honest, even UK probably, even though they're supposed to be an ally, everything you do is being videotaped and recorded. Now, we know what about Hunter Biden. He's a drug addict, crack, coke, whatever. He is a connoisseur of prostitutes, right? Well, when you go to these type of countries like China or whatever, I mean, Hunter Biden's a dream come true. Only God knows the hours and hours of video that the Chinese, as well as the Russians and the Ukrainians are, but just focus on China because they're the biggest problem in the world. Only God knows the hours and hours and hours of video the Chinese government has on Hunter Biden smoking crack, doing drugs, cavorting with prostitutes. And that's not a stretch to say that because we've got his laptop. It's all over his own laptop. Well, you think he changed behavior, especially when he's in these foreign countries and it's being like thrown in his face? Are you kidding me? Joe Biden is a national security nightmare. Now, why do you think he approved Putin's multi-billion-dollar a year gas line to Germany after Trump had it shut down? Yet while he's giving Putin billions, he shuts down the Keystone XL. 48,000 good-paying jobs gone. A tool for our energy independence gone. Five Chinese spies were just caught. The Biden administration refused to prosecute them. Just saying why. I guarantee you, Donald Trump is president right now, there would be some sort of demand for reparations from the Chinese government for unleashing the Chinese flu on the world. Guarantee you. Now, whether he ever got it done, that's another question. But I guarantee he would have taken that stand. You're never going to see that from Biden. Never. We've talked a lot about government corruption. Tucker Carlson, for those of you who don't know, his stepmother is the heir to the Swanson fast food dynasty, okay? So Tucker Carlson grew up in a very privileged, lifestyle, okay? Prep school, all that kind of stuff. But you got to give Tucker credit for one thing. He just didn't start on Fox News a couple years ago. He has been in the media for 25 years. Many people maybe don't know that. He started out on the old MSNBC. Back then, they had Michael Savage on. They had, I think, Ann Coulter had a show for a while. I know Laura Ingraham had a show there for a while. I mean, they had a lot of conservative people on MSNBC a couple decades ago, right? Tucker was there for a while. He then moved to CNN. Probably he started to gain some acclaim when he was hosting that CNN political show called Crossfire. Tucker was taking the conservative side. You had people like Bill Press that were on the Democratic side. That was on for many years. Then he founded the website Daily Caller, a conservative political website, news site with a conservative bent, obviously. And then Fox. I'll give him credit for one thing. I'm usually prepping. I don't get to see it all the time. I do record it some nights. He's been fearless in the things he's gone after, things nobody else will touch. Well, last weekend, Tucker's a big outdoorsman. He loves fly fishing. Apparently, last weekend, he was in Montana, which I guess is where it's fly fishing heaven up there, okay? And he's in a bait store, and some guy comes up and gets in his face and says, "I've always wanted to tell you what a piece of garbage you are," and just berates him to his face. And Tucker Carlson didn't react. He just told him to back off, and that was kind of it. Well, this guy posts it on his social media, goes viral. It's all over, all over. Big viral video over the weekend. Well, people started doing some investigation. Turns out that guy that confronted him at that Montana bait store wasn't just a random happening. Apparently, this guy works for an organization that's a CIA asset. The whole thing was staged. It was pure kabuki theater. Boy, our government, man, they are like all into this stuff now, aren't they? After going through the Russia thing for 3 years, knowing it was a scam, knowing it was a lie from day one, and nobody held accountable, look at what they're doing now. Now, why are they after Tucker? Well, he's hit the military hard for basically trying to turn the military into a social experiment, He's gone after people that, nobody else will for the most part. He's gone after the FBI for the Whitmer plot. He's gone after the FBI asking questions about 1/6. He's one of the few people on TV asking questions about the election. So he's a big problem for these people because he's going places pretty much nobody, even on any of the conservative media, will go. Even to some extent, Newsmax. You don't hear a lot of talk about the election on Newsmax because, it's just a taboo subject for everybody, except the corporate media, and they just use it as a cudgel, right? The big lie. So it was interesting because, again, it didn't take very long for some people that know how to use the internet to find out that this guy who confronted Tucker in a Montana bait store wasn't just some random fisherman that didn't like Tucker. Nope, that was a plan. Which don't forget, he just exposed the NSA, our number one collection of data in our organization, our intel organization that collects data. It's supposed to be on foreigners, but they were embarrassed because they got caught watching Tucker. And it does beg the question, how did this guy who works for a company that's a CIA asset know Tucker would be at a bait store in Montana of all places? Obviously, they're keeping track of the man. Biden yesterday, he freaked out at a question from an NBC reporter. NBC, part of state-run media. NBC makes Pravda look like a legitimate media organization. Pravda is the Russian state media, right? NBC makes Pravda look like a legitimate media or a journalistic organization. And he called her a pain in the neck. And once again, don't forget, the corporate media. They ran his election. We just talked about these numbers, and Biden really didn't campaign. Nobody's ever run a campaign like that. But he didn't have to run a campaign because the media ran his campaign for him, right? He should be giving them flowers every day. But he got all upset because Biden does not like to be asked questions that aren't on his cards. All right? And it was about the fact that the news came out yesterday that the government's going to mandate everybody that works for Veteran Affairs, which is a pretty large group of people, must be vaccinated or be fired. In other words, it's a government mandate on the Veterans Affairs Administration. Well, today it broke. By the end of the week, they're going to mandate all federal employees. And don't forget, the federal government's probably the largest employer of anybody in this country. Over 3 million people work for the government. And it looks like by the end of the week, they're going to mandate all government employees get the vax or be fired. And just to put a bow on this one, when Biden was talking about this today, he said, people who don't get vaccinated, they're just stupid. He gets very frustrated when people don't, hop to when he gives orders. By the way, I saw something the other day. It just made my head shake. Let me show you how much the whole immigration issue, as I've always told you, is not an accident. It's purposeful. The Biden administration is going to end up paying $2 billion in contracts that were already signed, not to finish the wall. In other words, there's $2 billion that's already been outlaid to pretty much finish the rest of the wall, the last, 40, 50 miles where it needs to be finished. The Biden administration has put a kibosh on finishing the wall. Unfortunately, they can't put a kibosh on these contracts. They're already signed and guaranteed. So we're going to end up paying $2 billion. And instead of getting the wall finished, we're paying $2 billion for these people just to basically sit home and collect their contract money for not having to do the work. It's insanity. It's insanity. By the way, I don't know if you knew this. You should if you watch this program because we've talked about it a little bit in the past. But Big Tech has a counterterrorism coalition. In other words, it's a coalition of all the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Googles and all of that, right? And it's a coalition that has been put together to help fight Islamic terrorism. In other words, they're working with our government to feed them information from their platforms that could potentially be some sort of Islamic terrorism getting ready to happen somewhere in the country. Okay? Well, they've kiboshed the focus on Islamic terrorism, and if you watch this show very long, you probably don't need me to tell you what they're now going to focus on instead of Islamic terrorism. That's right, domestic right-wing organizations, the greatest threat to our homeland. So now you've got all the social media giants that are working with the government hand in hand, and they are now going to be looking for content on their platforms that the government might want to take a look at, because it might be a right-wing, white nationalist, white extremist group. Unbelievable. By the way, just so you know, it's only a matter of time before big tech just wipes out all of the conservative political content on their platforms. That's one reason why, even though we're still on the main platforms, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, right? We're also on a lot of these new platforms, most of them started by conservatives, that are supposed to be about free speech. We'll see. I think that's true. Obviously, there's nowhere near the traffic on those platforms yet, but we're there just in case they ever do get a lot of traffic. And we're picking up some views and some people here and there. But just remember this, even though we're talking about the censorship of conservative political speech, once they're done with that, they're going to be coming after the Christian speech, and already are to some extent. The United Kingdom, they're getting ready to adopt the the Chinese social credit system. Wow. Told you that was getting ready to happen, and trust me, it's already started to some extent here, but the whole Vax passport is going to be like the beginning of building a social credit score on people to ultimately determine whether you can leave the country, you can fly on a plane, you can rent a hotel room, you can eat at a restaurant. Unbelievable. Historically, the midterms, after someone has been in office for the first time, in other words, you get a president elected like in 2020, the first midterm is 2022. Historically, those midterms, the party in power just gets hammered. 1994, that was Newt Gingrich and the Reagan Revolution, right? They picked up, 56 seats, first time in 40 years. The Republicans controlled the House, right, 94. Then you had the Tea Party, and Obama got elected in 2008, 2010. The Tea Party, as Barack Obama admitted, they got shellacked, right? So historically, the Democrats are probably going to take a real beating next year and lose the House and Senate. While we need to focus on 2022, before we can focus on that, we need to deal with what happened in the presidential election last November. And we need to not just find out what happened, people need to be punished. Or I'll tell you what, they're just going to try to cheat again in 2022. Now, a lot of states have been proactive to try to stop a lot of the illegal operations that were utilized to cheat in these key swing states. You know, when I read you those numbers, you know, how can Biden lose Iowa, Florida, and Iowa and still win? How can he lose 18 out of 19 bellwether counties and still win? Well, that's because they focused on five metropolitan areas, basically. Detroit, Michigan, right? Madison, and Milwaukee in Wisconsin, Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, Atlanta, Fulton County in Georgia, and Phoenix, Maricopa County in Arizona. Those were the places that they used Zuckerberg's $400 million to put in all kind of rules because of COVID that never got passed by their state legislature, making them illegal. They were illegal. Before you even talk about fraud in the election, you first have to acknowledge that those 5 key swing states all instituted election policies under the guise of the COVID emergency, but instituted those policies illegally because the Constitution says it's the state legislature that sets the election laws for a state. The governors that put in those laws did it illegally. The Secretary of States that put in those laws did so illegally. So before you even need to start talking about counts and machines and all that stuff, the fact is they did things in that election that were illegal. That's a fact before you get to anything else. Need to deal with that. We need to not just get an accounting, whatever that accounting is, whatever the ramifications of that accounting are, which I've always said probably will be nothing, because even if they prove that Trump won all 5 of those states, what are they going to do now? Some people think they might go to the Supreme Court, and there's no mechanism in the Constitution at this point to change the election. But we need to have it aired out. People need to go to jail because people broke the law. So when it does come time for 2022, people go to the polls knowing that they're not going to get robbed this time. By the way, speaking of Zuckerberg, he's coming after the Christians, only in a different way, at first anyway. And really, I think laying the groundwork. When I saw this, I got very, very skeptical. Zuckerberg's trying to get Christians and churches to utilize Facebook more. With churches that are shut down and more people online, he's trying to build up the Christian community on Facebook. Now listen, we've been on Facebook pretty much since they started. As I've told you, never spent a dime, don't make a dime off Facebook. Just use it as a platform to post the devotional and the TV show, air the TV show live for now anyway. We brought a lot of people on board on Facebook. But if Zuckerberg wakes up tomorrow morning and says that Bill Keller, he's a hate monger, get rid of him, they'll shut down our Facebook page. There's nothing I can do about it. We have no way of contacting all the people on Facebook, because when they shut you down, they just strip you of all those abilities. But now he's playing to the Christians. He's basically trying to exploit Christians as a new advertising base, right? That's all it is. So all I can tell people out there, if you run a ministry, if you got a church, utilize Facebook. You're stupid not to. But don't be spending money with them, because you never know when the day comes, and it will come. Trust me when I tell you. There's coming a day, because now they're after the conservative political content. They're coming for the Christian next. Don't doubt me on that. And when they do, your whole presence at Facebook is going to be obliterated overnight. Just like having a church in China. They decide one day, you're done, you're done. They throw you in jail, they bulldoze your church, and that's it. You don't exist anymore. So just be very, very wary. By the way, some people, I've gotten some emails, people wanting to know what this BDS issue is with Israel. The BDS movement, which is supported by wackos like Talib and Omar and people that hate the United States, hate Christians, hate Jews, love Muslims. The BDS movement stands for boycott, divest, and sanction. In other words, the people in the BDS movement boycott Israel, divest any finances from Israel, and work to sanction Israel. So it is a pure anti-Israel movement, primarily pushed by sympathizers to Islam and the Palestinians that occupy parts of Israel, right? I got to tell you something. These Olympics, this been very kind of back and forth with me. Growing up, loving the Olympics. You know, I was a kid, you know, that would, because a lot of times Olympics are played in weird time zones, right? You know, I'd be up at 3 a.m, you know, sometimes with my little TV under my blanket so my parents didn't catch me, up at 3 a.m. watching skiing or ice skating or hockey, Olympic hockey or whatever, track and field. Yeah, love the Olympics all my life. Not so much now. There's a lot of people like me. The ratings so far are down to a 33-year low. Some of that has to do with the fact it's over in Japan, which is a 13-hour time difference from the U.S. And we're losing. We're losing. The U.S. basketball team. Do you remember the Dream Team, the original Dream Team with Jordan and, you know, all those guys? Man, they didn't lose. They won by 30, 40, 50 points, and they weren't even trying. Well, we lost our first round game against France the other day. Greg Popovich and Steve Kerr are the coaches. Now, if you watch this program, you know I have hit them mercilessly, and I always will, because they suck up to communist China, yet they are the biggest bullies on the social media block when it comes to ripping President Trump supporters. You know, great coaches. Love Steve Kerr. He was part of 3 of the Bulls' run of 6 back in the 90s, right? But these guys, and again, if they were as forceful against the Chinese government as they are against our own government, I probably, you know, wouldn't pay attention so much. Anyway, these guys are the coaches. The team lost, which is unbelievable. Now they're playing Iran tonight, about a half hour after the show's over. You know, they'll probably win that game. I mean, they could probably win that game with an 8th grade team, to be blunt with you. But we're not doing so well over there. We're not doing so well. People don't like the woke athletes. Some people, you know, like I confessed the other night, are actually rooting against the United States. That's insanity, man. That's terrible. By the way, speaking of the Olympics, let me just deal with this right now, because we had an event last night I want to talk about for a second. Let me find it here real quick, because I really want to talk about this, because this is so much about our country. Here it is. We've talked a lot on this program about mental illness and how prevalent it is. And it's even becoming a very open issue in our sports. Now, mental illness, let me just say this. It is as real as cancer. It is much of an illness as a broken leg, okay? I mean, it is legitimately a very real illness. It's very prevalent in our culture right now. And we've had this whole mental illness issue really become a huge issue in athletics. Back just a few months ago, the French Open. One of the favorites is Osaka, who was half Japanese, half American. She pulled out of the French Open, if you remember, even before it started, because she didn't want to talk to the press. And she said she had to go get her mind together or something. Well, she resurfaced for the first time and actually lit the cauldron in the opening games. Again, very popular in Japan, of course. They idolize their athletes, as we do in this country. She went out and played her first round tennis match. She was really one of the favorites to win the gold medal. She got, using an Obama term, shellacked. I mean, she just got blown off the court. Wasn't even close. Last year at Ohio State, of course, my alma mater, their basketball team, they had a very promising freshman. He was a very highly touted recruit, had offers from all the big schools to go play basketball there, picked Ohio State. He was about 6 games in the season, and he, quote unquote, took a leave of absence. Said he had some mental issues. He had to, he had to work those out. Never came back the rest of the season. I'm not, saying anything negative. I mean, obviously, if the guy's got issues, good for him for dealing with it. But we had something last night. This little, Biles girl who's probably one of the world's greatest gymnasts ever, right? She, the team competition started yesterday. She had, I guess she did one of her vaults, really didn't do well, and she just walked off the floor. And she said, I'm dropping out of the rest of the Olympics. I mean, it's a shockwave. I mean, she's the star of the U.S. team. They were counting on her. We ended up losing the gold to Russia. We got the silver, but we pretty much always won the gold medal, at least over the last 20 years or so in the Olympic gymnastics. She walked off. She came back and tried to pump up her team, but she wasn't going to compete anymore. And you know what the first thing I thought about? And if you're a sports fan, you may remember this. Back in the Atlanta Olympics in 1996, there was a little girl by the name of Carrie Strug. And we were like neck and neck with some other country. I can't remember who it was. It was her turn, her last vault, and she had to get a certain score to push us over the top and get the gold medal, the team gold medal in the team participation, right? And the problem was, on her previous vault, she'd sprained her ankle to the point she couldn't even stand. And tears and tears. They worked on her a little bit over on the bench, taped her up a little bit, and that little, I don't know what she was, 4'10", 4'9", something like that. Just a little pack of dynamo on an ankle that was later determined to be broken. She ran down that runway, hit the vault, did her little routine. And as she was coming down, I'm thinking, oh my God, she's going to shatter her ankle, her leg. She stuck the landing, got the score we needed to go over the top, and the U.S. got the gold. Now listen, I am the last person that's ever going to chastise somebody who needs to take a break because whatever, their mind's not right. I get that. I guess all I'm saying is I grew up in an era where, at least in sports, people just sucked it up, You did your job. I remember, who was it? My mind. Back in the 70s, Willis Reed. It was the New York Knicks. It was the finals. Can't remember who they were playing. Willis Reed, he was like injured. He came out of the tunnel limping, played the majority of the game, led the Knicks to a victory. Michael Jordan, it was against Utah. It was one of the finals games in Utah. He had the flu, could barely even, stand up, went out, scored like 40 points. All I'm saying is, I'm just from an era where people just sucked it up, did their best. Again, I'm not commenting, I'm not chastising anybody. If you got mental health issues, nobody is more aware of that. Nobody's talked about that probably as much as I do, because it is such a huge issue. But again, all I can tell you is I just remember a day when, people just sucked it up. Sick, you go to work, yeah. But what was the old post office motto? Rain, sleet, snow, Rabid dogs can't stop the mail from being delivered. I mean, you just sucked it up. You did your job. You did what you had to do. You know, your family's counting on you. Other people count on you, right? The Chinese flu is in free fall. I mean, it's blowing apart. We're now getting mask mandates from the CDC. You're getting more and more employer-based mandates to be vaxxed or be fired. As I mentioned the other night, they're starting to throw the L word down. Yeah, lockdown. And the networks are just running the fear-mongering play right back. The same play they ran night after night, hour after hour last year. They're running it all again. Don't forget what I told you last year, because this has not changed. It's not the number of cases. It's not the number of people in hospitals. It's the number of people that die. And those numbers, my friend, are still really low. All right, let's talk about, I left enough time to talk about Nancy's Kabuki Theater, the fact that we are now officially a third world banana republic country. I mean, what started today is exactly what you see in Russia, in China, in North Korea, in Cuba. They're called a show trial. The verdict's already been decided. Before the trial even starts, the verdict's been decided. They just go through the show. It's all scripted. You know, and I watched some of those police officers today. Those officers were reading off a script. They couldn't even say some of the words. Those weren't their words. They were written for them. They couldn't even say some of the words. And by the way, only because I follow all this stuff so closely, the first thing I noticed when this thing started today was some familiar faces in the lawyers' row. You know, right behind the people testifying. That row's for lawyers, right? Do you know that the lawyers there that were representing the Capitol Hill police and all that, do you know those were the very same lawyers that were in the Blasey Ford Kavanaugh scam? Same people. And those people before Kavanaugh were, a lot of them were DOJ people that were pushing the Russia scam that they knew was a fraud. Unbelievable. But it was absolute. I mean, if you want a definition for Kabuki theater, that was today. Adam Kinzinger. He might as well just be a Democrat. Liz Cheney. Don't forget, Liz Cheney's problem is Trump didn't want wars. The Cheney family are warmongers from day one. Don't forget, it's Cheney, not Bush, although Bush is responsible because he was president. Cheney's the one that got us into that war with Iraq, the overthrow of Saddam Hussein. That was Cheney. Bush is responsible because he was the president. That was Cheney. So you got Cheney and Kinzinger, and then this evil witch Pelosi can say, well, it's bipartisan. Listen, Kinzinger and Cheney are as much of a Republican as I am a liberal progressive globalist. They're as much Republican as I am a globalist, and that's zero. They hate President Trump for all those reasons. By virtue, hate his supporters. The narrative has already been engineered for the Democrats and for the media. They're slaves in the corporate media. And what's the purpose is? It's simple. The purpose is to, number one, make all Trump voters and Christians, just don't ever forget that. When I say Trump voters, that means Christians too. Trump voters look like terrorists, justify the fact that they're the greatest threat to the homeland. Okay? That's number one. Do whatever damage they can to Donald Trump and run this thing all the way through the 2022 midterms, because that's their only hope of not getting killed in the midterms. They've got two hopes for the midterms. One is this Kabuki theater is going to damage the Republicans enough that people won't want to vote for him. That's not going to work, by the way. And the other one, of course, is the filibuster. By the way, speaking of the filibuster, 38 people, including Jesse Jackson, did a sit-in in Kirsten Sinema's office demanding she, votes to get rid of the filibuster. I told you these people are going to come under intense pressure. Now, that was kind of a theatrical performance. You can only imagine the pressure, because if the filibuster holds, they can't just unload everything on this country that they want to. It's going to be damaged badly by 2024, but at least it can be repaired. But that's what the whole purpose of this panel is. And it was an absolute circus. Kinzinger's crying, big bad shifty shifts crying, police officers crying. Give me a break. Do you remember back in April, a follower of the Nation of Islam ran over a Capitol Hill police officer, rammed the gate, and killed the guy? Never heard anything about it, did you? Nothing. And we've been talking about these people that were arrested for basically trespassing, who've been in lockdown 24/7 for the last anywhere from 2 to 6 months. Some of them are reporting being taken out in the middle of the night, handcuffed behind their back and being beaten by the guards. One of them has lost sight in his eye. More is going to come out on that, I guarantee you. But all this is to justify, and they call it an insurrection. There wasn't anybody armed except the Capitol Police. The only person died, they said 7 people died. No, 7 people didn't die. The only person that died was Ashley Babbitt, executed by the head of Schumer's security, Lieutenant Michael Leroy Byrd. See, now, if this was a true search for the truth, number one, Pelosi would be the first witness, because she had total control of the security of the building that day. She refused 10,000 National Guard troops from Donald Trump just 2 days before. She should be number one. Lieutenant Byrd should be on under oath to find out why he executed an unarmed 14-year-old Air Force vet. They made all these claims. The black guard officer said, well, we were being called the N-word and blah, blah, blah. You know what? That's great. If you said that happened, I'll believe you, but I want proof. Well, how do I prove it? 14,000 hours of Capitol footage. Every square inch of that Capitol's covered. Bring out the 14,000 hours of video. Let's see that. That's what I want to see. Why won't they release it? I've got a good hunch why. Because you've got a handful of people that did most of the damage, most of the assaulting. And we're going to find out if those handful were really Trump supporters, or maybe they were plants by the FBI, because we know the FBI was pulling a game just like they did with Gretchen Whitmer. Okay? So all this is going to be coming out, but that was just pathetic today. I got just being blunt. That was a pathetic scene today. But you know what? They don't care. They don't care. By the way, if these police officers were so fearful for their life, what about the 1,200 police officers around this country that were injured by Antifa, Black Lives Matter? Where's that commission at? Billions in property damage, millions and millions of dollars of looted merchandise, 275 plus riots, federal buildings attacked, law enforcement officers attacked. And out of the thousands of people that were arrested, thousands, right now, the best I can find out, there might be 4 active cases going. Where are the rest of them? Oh, they dropped those cases. People that burned buildings, arson, people that looted, people that assaulted police, all those charges, all dropped. That was your real insurrection. That was your real, and the people tearing down the statues. Where are those people? Oh, they all got a pass. Ugh. All right, we're gonna stop there. There's a lot of content tonight. All right, I'm almost out of time. But before we go tonight, tune in tomorrow. And I'm still sitting on a lot of stuff, plus whatever's going on tomorrow. So tune in, okay? If you can't get it live, make sure you watch the replay, all right? Before we get out of here tonight, if you never made a decision for Christ, I'm going to give you that chance before we shut it off tonight. Because when this brief journey of life is over, the only thing that matters, do you know Jesus? If you've never made that decision, it's one only you can make. I'm going to give you a chance right now. Pray with me. Dear Lord, I come to you tonight asking you to forgive me of all my sins. I confess tonight, Lord, I'm a sinner, and I ask your forgiveness. I believe in my heart and confess with my mouth tonight. Jesus is my Lord and my Savior. I surrender my life to Jesus tonight. And from this day forward, use me for your glory. My life belongs to you. In the name of Jesus, I pray. And once again, friend, if you prayed, the Bible says you're saved not because you uttered a few words. They're just a verbal guide for your faith. It's your faith that saves you in God's grace. Ephesians 2:8-9. Have a book I'll send you. Won't cost you anything. Drop me an email. bkellerliveprayer.com. Also, if you need prayer for anything, don't ever hesitate to email us, okay? Get probably anywhere from 150, 200 emails a night from the program. That's fine. That's what we're here for. We're here to stand with you in your time of need, all right? Love and care about you so much. Have a great night tonight. Blessed day tomorrow, Lord willing. Back here tomorrow night, 11 o'clock Eastern, for more live prayer. God bless.
What problems are you dealing with in your life right now?
Do you feel like giving up? Times are hard and you're not strong. Well, I know the answer for you, and it